In this tutorial, we will learn all about strings in Python. To create a string, you can use single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes. The triple quotes is a special case which will actually allow you to create a multi-line string. Let's get started. Here we're just creating a simple string using the interpreter and single quotes. You can also create it with double quotes, as I said before. You'll notice that when it prints it back out, it always puts it in single quotes, but this is definitely valid Python. Let's create a triple quoted one. Here we've created a multi-line string using 3 triple quotes. You can also use 3 single quotes if you want to. Now we're going to print it out. You will see that it has retained the carriage returns that we put into it in the multi-line string above. You can also turn like an integer into a string, so let's try that too. Int equals 6. So now we have a string that has been casted from the integer. So you just take the integer and pass it to the string method, and it'll turn it into a string. This is known as casting to a string. Now let's move on to string concatenation. Basically, concatenation allows you to put 2 strings together. It's really easy to show. So this is the first string. The plus operator allows us to add 2 strings together. Now when you add these 2 together, there's going to be a slight problem. Let's see what happens. You will notice that the 2 strings run together because there's no space at the end of the first string or at the beginning of the second string. That's kind of goofy looking. You can also assign these 2 strings to 2 variables and add them together as well. There's another way to join 2 strings together using the join method. Let's give that a try. Here we are creating an empty string and joining it to whatever's in this list of strings. So this joined each of these members of the list into one single string. You'll note that we also have another little problem here where it's combining the strings together without any spaces. We can actually fix that slightly. Let's grab that again and make it join these together with a space in between. See how that turns out. Here we go, that fixed it. So this time we're actually joining a space in between each of the strings that are in the list. Okay, right now we've completed the concatenation and join methods. Let's take a look at some of the other methods that the string type provides. So you have a string, we'll just call it that. And to find out what methods are available, you can actually call Python's built-in dir method on the string object. All of these are methods you can call on the string. So let's try a couple of them. Capitalize, I'll capitalize it. Let's try upper. You can also use alpha to determine if you have an alphanumeric string. It is true. Let's just prove that we don't have a decimal one. Yep, it's false. And basically use all these other ones as well, like lower, we'll put it all in lowercase. Right adjust, strip. Let's take a look at strip. That one's actually really helpful. So let's say you have a bunch of strings and they have lots of oddball stuff at the end. This happens a lot when you're creating strings from a file. You'll read it in and it'll have a lot of extra junk at the beginning or the end of the string. And you don't really want that because it has all this extra space at the very end of the string. So to fix that, you can just call strip on it and it'll strip off all the extra string at the end, and the beginning actually. Now let's make sure it does what I think it does. Yeah, I just want to make sure of that. You can also use, I think it's strip. That'll do just the right hand strip of the string. So that'll leave the stuff on the left still in there. And there's also an L strip to just strip off the left hand side. I recommend taking a look at some of these other ones that aren't used quite as much. Encode can be handy if you need to encode your string into another type. Find will help you find characters within the string or character strings within a string. Index will tell you exactly where in a string, what part of the string you're in at that particular point in time. You just kind of have to go around and check different things. Now we can move on to string slicing. String slicing lets you find pieces of the string and use them accordingly. You use this a lot when you're creating parsers of files and that sort of thing. Let's give it a try. So a slice syntax is use an open square brace, a number, and the ending number. So let's end at character 7. So that gave us the slice of the first 6 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You note it does not actually contain the 7th one, because the 0 through 6 would actually be 7 characters, but it only goes 0 up to 6, but not including 6. Sometimes you'll want to just grab the end of a string. So you can go backwards over it and do something like this. Oops. That will give you the last character, so if you want to go backwards over the string, you can do that as well. -1 to like -4, I believe will give us the moon. Oops. You kind of have to experiment a little bit sometimes to get exactly what you want. In this case, we removed the last 4 characters off of it and got rid of the moon. You notice that I didn't have a beginning character, so I just kind of went backwards from there. If you just do -4 without the colon, it just goes back 4 characters and just grabs you the M from the moon. This can be really powerful because sometimes you have to grab certain strings of subtexts within really complicated files. So you'll read in a CSV file and you'll go through each of the lines and you'll end up needing 10 characters in, or just the last 4 characters of every number, or other really goofy things when you're parsing files. Let's move on to string substitution. There are actually a couple of different ways to do string substitution in Python. The old school method uses the %. Let's take a look. So basically you just create a % where you want the character to appear, then you create another % outside of the string, and then whatever you want to actually get substituted into the string itself. So and this string here actually got substituted into this part. But this actually becomes interesting if we have strings like my name is, and then you ask the user what their name is, and then you can substitute it in using this kind of thing. You can actually substitute as many of these as you want. So if you have %s multiple times, I think this will actually cause it to break. So you actually want it to have enough arguments. And when you have multiple arguments, you have to have them inside of parentheses. So my name is Michael. Some people call me other things. So we'll just do this. The other ways to do string substitution require the format operator. You can use the format operator to do some interesting things. Let's take a look. So here we're using the format method of the string, and we're going to only let it put in the first member that we pass to it. So that's what the 0 means. 0 is the first one. Let's actually put in a couple so you can get a better idea of how this works. Okay, so we have a 0 and a 1. That corresponds to the first and the second strings passed in the format operator. Another way to do this is actually use named parameters inside of the curly braces. So let's give that a try too. We'll just change this slightly. Make this first name, and this is last name. A bit wider, and then you just change this to first and this to last. Whoops, my bad. I thought something different than what I typed. This is another handy feature that Python gives you. When you screw up, it'll actually give you a decent traceback and tell you that, oh, it should have been the first name as the first parameter, not just first. So this is how you do pass in named parameters. They have to match exactly what's in the curly braces. There are actually lots of other parts to string substitution where you can actually tell it that you're going to pass it an integer or a float, and how much padding you want to be put into the string substitution. I recommend checking out the documentation to learn how to do all those other things. Now, it's your turn to go out and try some of these cool new methods that you've learned. Thanks.